Why is America overwhelmed in the battle against COVID-19? Hospitals continue to remain overburdened and the vaccine hesitancy remains high. My colleague Milan Sharma exclusively spoke to Dr. Fahim Yunus, top infectious diseases expert, University of Maryland. Here's more on that.
Joining me on this special broadcast is Dr. Fahim Yunus, and he is the key person everyone follows on Twitter for trustworthy, for helpful advice. He's the infectious diseases chief at the Maryland University in the US, and he himself was COVID positive and has now recovered. Dr. Fahim Yunus, thank you so much for joining us on India Today. First of all, just would like to ask you, at the moment, what has been happening in the US? Because we've been looking at a surge in cases, overburdened hospitals. In fact, you yourself had tweeted some time ago saying what COVID is actually doing to hospitals and the healthcare infrastructure in the US. You said patients are dying in the ER, elective surgeries are getting cancelled, National Guards have been deployed. What exactly is the situation there, sir?
We have 1,800 Americans dying a day. We have nearly 1 million people testing positive a day. So this is not counting for all the people who may not get tested because of capacity issues or who are getting rapid tests at home. A few things where I have been wrong during this pandemic. One of them is I was talking to my intensivist a few months ago when the cases had gone down and the vaccination was at 62%. And both of us, because he's also on the front line, both of us agreed that as US, we have crossed the hardest part of the pandemic and it will not come back with the same ferocity. Unfortunately, this time that we are now going through is the hardest. We have never seen this degree of staffing shortages. About 30% of staff is not present in the hospitals. Either they're sick or they've retired or they've gone somewhere else to work with. We have blood shortages like we've never seen before. You all know and you've seen the long lines of people trying to get tested. 2 years into a pandemic, we still don't have the kind of testing capacity. And of course, because the hospitals are so overloaded, we are seeing bad outcomes to a point that we have not seen before. It's not a pretty picture.
Why do you think that is, Dr. Yunus? Because we have been, as a world together, struggling through the pandemic. It's been over 2 years. Why do you think, the US government was not prepared, so to say, even after having witnessed the previous variants and having gone through the Delta wave as well?
Sure. I mean, there are 100 answers to this and everybody's entitled to their opinion. From my vantage point, I don't think we went into this pandemic from a position of strength. Our public health infrastructure was underfunded. Our hospitals were already struggling with staffing issues. Then on top of that, we politicized a virus so deeply. Something as simple as a vaccine, a life-saving product, has been so deeply politicized in our country that still we have about 70 million Americans who have not taken the vaccine. We then have a huge communication breakdown. Misinformation, lack of information is one thing, but when you have about 12 people, just 12 people responsible for 65% of disinformation, literally wrong information. I still have a patient in the hospital who insists on getting ivermectin, even though study after study has shown that it doesn't work. So there are multiple different levels of why we are in this situation. And then, of course, it's an ever-changing virus. We need to approach it from a position of humility. Yes, I have been doing infectious diseases for 20 years, but I haven't managed pandemics like this before. So we all have to come from a position of being a student to some degree. We're all learning along the way.
Why are more and more children getting infected and going to hospitals? Is it because of COVID only, or is it also because of other illnesses? Are you looking at higher rates of incidental positives? And how are children able to handle the spread of Omicron's infection?
We still do not know if Omicron has a predilection for severe disease in children. So I don't want people to draw that conclusion. But it's true that the Delta variant, the number of cases doubled in 2 weeks. With Omicron, the number of cases doubled in 2 days. So it's highly transmissible, infects a lot more people. Children were the most unvaccinated group in our country, right? Children vaccine became approved later on. About 30% of children were vaccinated. So a very large pool of children unvaccinated. On top of that, you open the schools. So there are more transmissions happening in the schools. And then we know pathogenically the Delta variant tends to attack the upper respiratory tract more as compared to the lungs and lower respiratory tract. And children's upper respiratory tract is still developing. So anatomically, younger children will get more symptoms. So I think a combination of all those factors has put more children in the hospitals.
Are we looking at severity of disease in children? As you mentioned that perhaps there isn't enough data to say yet whether Delta or Omicron is severe in children, because here in India, health experts have been saying that children have been able to handle COVID better than the adults.
Study after study has shown that there is a direct negative correlation with age. As you get older, your outcomes are worse. As you're younger, your outcomes are better. Some studies have even shown that the number of children who died due to COVID in US in the past 2 years were comparable to influenza deaths prior to that. So we know that, but reality is that medical science used to develop over 5, 6, 10 years because we would have long case control studies or randomized control trials. This pandemic has put everyone under such pressure that people and sometimes institutions and authorities under that pressure end up making a statement that they have to retract. I would say personally, I have not seen such robust studies where I can go ahead and make a claim that this Omicron is more deadly or more severe for children.
You mean to say it is certainly, and one should be careful, right, doctor?
I mean to say that it is impacting everyone. And yes, we should be careful, but it generates a level of panic when we single out children and say, oh my God, children are dying. I do not agree with that. I think overall children are falling sick probably to the same rate as adults, and they continue to have better outcomes as compared to adults. Now, better outcomes is a relative term. It doesn't mean the Omicron is safe.
I talk about children because unlike the US, where children's vaccinations are still being given to a sizable population with the vaccines that have been approved, in India, we have only approved vaccinations for adolescents from the age of 15 to 18. How vulnerable do children remain if they are unvaccinated, doctor?
These are difficult discussions because it comes to resource allocations. As adults, all of us in our own daily life, we have to budget things. We can't go out and buy everything. I think on the same principle applied on a macro level for governments, where they have a choice to either vaccinate the most vulnerable adults, frontline workers, essential workers, people with immunocompromised illnesses versus children. So I would say if there was unrestricted supply, yes, anyone over the age of 5 should get vaccinated and boosted. But if supply is an issue, then not only that adults should be vaccinated first, but I believe they should be boosted as well. Because what we know is with Omicron, the efficacy of a vaccine can drop from 90% to 70%. So once you boost or get the third shot, your chances of protection will be much higher.
Do you think that the level of testing, when it's reduced, we'll end up not catching these infections? And certainly as it happened in South Africa, where a immunocompromised person with HIV happened to have gotten infected with COVID, and then the replication or the mutation of the virus happened in Omicron. What are the dangers of reducing testing at this point?
Yeah, and again, it's a quite polarized issue. I'm fully aware of some people who are strongly suggesting that we should not even test anymore because the number of cases won't make a difference. I'm of the view that knowing is always better than not knowing. And this is not true just for COVID, but even during regular flu seasons, knowing that someone has influenza is better than not knowing what kind of infection they have. I feel our strategy should be to quadruple the number of testing, to have testing become so ubiquitous that people should be able to do a test before going to a party at home. They should be able to test their child before sending them to school. It should become like a tea bag, right? You can just make instant tea anywhere. If you ask me, that's my vision of ending this pandemic. Make testing so cheap, so available, and it doesn't have to be 100% accurate. I'm okay with 90% accuracy and maybe 10% false negatives. That's better than no testing. Once again, that same philosophy of masks. Instead of looking for perfection, we should be looking for ubiquity. What is that we can make accessible to population? So I'm of the view that testing, we should be investing more in rapid tests, and they should be as available and as affordable as possible, so people know exactly what they're dealing with.
Doctor, what would be your recommendations on masks? Because in India, we haven't really said that one must wear a KN95 or an N95. Large parts of population still wears a cloth mask because in India we say any mask is better than no mask. But how protective can these high-grade masks be? But what will be the implications of its access in India is not known. What do you suggest?
The science remains clear that a surgical mask will be better than a cloth mask. KN95 or N95 will be better than a surgical mask. If both people are wearing a surgical mask, they may have COVID transmission within an hour of exposure. If one of them is wearing an N95 mask, it'll take 5 hours for that transmission to occur. If both parties are wearing KN95 mask, it may take more than 20 hours. So that's the advantage you get. Even one party wearing a KN95 is beneficial not only for that person, but also for people around the person.
Dr. Yunus, just also want to understand some myths because people are now saying that the Omicron infection does not protect you from getting infected again or a reinfection with Omicron. Are there studies? What is science saying about this, sir?
It's very likely that people with Omicron will not develop lifelong immunity to reinfections. We're already seeing reinfections in people who had Delta before and now coming with Omicron. And once again, I don't want anyone to walk away thinking that this is nature's vaccine and somehow it's going to put the whole world on herd immunity because it'll just infect everyone and we'll go back to life happily ever after. I don't think that scenario is likely. So people should be careful. Just by getting Omicron, you're not protected. You may get reinfected in 3 or 6 months again with a new variant. So it's important for us to end this pandemic and reduce the number of variants in the pipeline. And we can only do that if the viral replication goes down.
Spain has said that, endemicity has set in. Do you actually think that we are at a stage where we can say that we are in an endemic? Because there were statements that were made by the WHO right before we saw Omicron, which said we are in the state of an endemic. Is it even happening for us? Will we ever be able to live in an environment without the COVID variants?
The answer is this pandemic is going to end. And yes, we will return to normal. I've been saying for almost 2 years now that we need to learn to live with this virus, but it's not a binary. We don't have to go to two extremes, lockdown or no testing and just no mask and go run with your life. There is a middle path, which is very safe. Living with COVID to me exactly means get vaccinated, wear a mask when it's needed, do your rapid tests and stop. And unless you're immunocompromised, if you're young and healthy, keep living your life. There is a calculated risk because once you do all of that, either you won't get infected or you'll get a mild infection like you used to have before the pandemic. That is my understanding and definition of living with the virus. It's not giving up. It's not just saying, all right, 1% of the people will die, no big deal. That's not what my definition is. I think we know enough and we have enough resources. And we need to trust our populations to give them those resources, and people will then be able to follow that middle ground.
Doctor, are you looking at an emergence of another variant at this moment? Because there's also been a lot of talk about Omicron not being the last variant. We'll still have to keep sailing through this problem.
Sure, absolutely. So I think everybody feels that there are more variants to come, but I don't want people to be depressed by that, because that's a simplistic analysis. I think what is also happening with every month, as more variants are coming out, so are more vaccines, so are
Yes.
more new tests, so are more monoclonal antibodies, so are more anti-COVID pills. So this is a race between the virus and the world, and I feel the good people are winning. Our only tragedy is that the virus, right from the get-go, has been more united than the humans. That is the tragedy. And once we understand that piece, I think we can end this pandemic.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yunus, for joining us on India Today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we hope that